When was the last time you stopped and really asked yourself, what does success mean to me? Not like what my parents told me it means, not what social media is always trying to tell me it should mean, not what the internet is screaming, not even what like my job description says, but like not even what my bank account says. Just what does success look like to me? I'm willing to bet that it's been a while. Maybe you've never even sat with that question at all. Maybe you haven't taken time to really write it out, what it means to you, or taken a walk and taken a voice note, creating clarity around what it looks like for you, what comes to mind. Most of us don't. The thing is, from the time that we're little, success is kind of like a checklist. Get the grades, get the degree, get the job, make the money, find the partner, buy the house, build the family, climb the ladder. And there's some slight variations to this, right? Depending on your culture, depending on your country, depending on your background. But generally speaking, there's always a template. And I'm making this video because a lot of us are feeling burned out. We're feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling disconnected. We're realizing that the template, the script that we've been handed, isn't real. And honestly, even this American dream, I'm coming from the American perspective, is no longer existent. Just wanted to talk about that. If if you're trying to do all of these things and you have, and people look at you and you say you're second, when you check all of these different things that I just listed off, people look at you and they say, you're successful. You've made it. And more recently, at least what I'm seeing is success looks like how often do you travel? How many perfectly curated photo dumps do you have and how many likes do they get? Right? How much money can you spend on matcha and matching sets in a month? And how many times can you post about it to prove it? Here's the thing that not enough of us are talking about, I don't think, just my opinion. And it's that if you don't determine what your version of success is, then nothing that you ever experience in this life is going to feel like it's enough. And I wish I wrapped my head around this sooner. But, we're all on our own path. We're all on our own journey. And, I don't know about you, but I personally got tired of feeling that way. I got tired of the goalpost moving. I got tired of reaching goals and feeling numb, feeling bored, feeling disappointed, because you reach this point eventually where you're like, well, if this didn't do it for me, then what will? And if all of these things that I thought would do it for me didn't do it for me, then what's the point of life? Like it can really take you to a pretty dark place if you don't really take the time to sit down and decide, what does success mean to you? What does it look like to you? And so that's why it's important for me to sit down and unpack this idea. Defining success for yourself, it's not selfish, it's not unrealistic, it's not something that you can do, later in life, right? Like, it's not reserved for anyone in particular, right? And another thing, you taking control and redefining what success looks like for you doesn't mean that you're settling or doesn't mean that you're lowering the bar like some people want to convince you of, right? This is actually true personal development. When you take a second to think about the script that all of us are handed on early on, think about it. From early on, we're handed this invisible script. Maybe for you, it was work hard, stay disciplined, keep climbing, keep achieving. And all of that's good. All of that's fine, right? Except what happens is you start running after this picture, this image, or this ideal of success, and then somewhere along the line you realize it doesn't actually fit you. And by the way, I want to know, comment the script that you were handed below. If some of the things that I'm saying, is that what you were told growing up? Is that the idea that you believed? Comment yours below, whether it's from your parents, friends, society, or whatever. I'm curious. And so maybe You've checked off a lot of the boxes already, or none of the boxes, or some of the boxes, right? Maybe you got the degree, maybe you got the promotion, maybe you got the relationship, maybe you got the home, maybe you started the business, right? And that looked cool and that promised you lots of things. And it delivered on some of those things, right? Regardless, from the outside, it looks like you're winning. But inside, you still feel restless. There's like this ache, or maybe you feel empty, or maybe you feel tired, right? Like, I don't think I'm alone in some of these things that I've experienced and some of these things that I'm talking about, because this is what I've experienced. And no experience is unique. And you spend enough time on the internet and you realize that none of us are really having our own experience. But what happens is you start to wonder, if I'm doing everything right, why does it not feel right? And that's what I'm getting at. That's the trap of the pre-written, handed down script. It promises fulfillment, it promises happiness, but all it really gives you is pressure, because the goalpost keeps moving. And as soon as you get one thing, it shifts to the next thing. And eventually you realize you have been treading on a hamster wheel, on autopilot, your whole life, chronically underwhelmed by everything that life has offered you. When you realize that, I think that there's a fear that comes up with redefining success and choosing something different, choosing something unique, choosing something that's authentically you. And here's where it gets tricky. Even if you start to sense that the script that you've been on is no longer working for you, the idea of flipping it, the idea of rewriting it is terrifying. It's scary, uncomfortable. Usually because if we're going to redefine our idea of success, it means that we're going to have to confront a fear that maybe we've been avoiding facing. You have to confront the fear of what people will think of you if you stop chasing what they expect of you, if you stop being who they've normalized you to be. Maybe there's a fear of wasting your potential or not reaching your potential on that old trajectory that you were on, right? Maybe there's a fear of throwing away what you worked so hard for. This was me. Like, I spent 8 years on a career path that had a great trajectory, and I worked really hard to get there. And there's a little bit of fear of like, am I throwing that away? Right? There's a fear of being misunderstood or judged as lazy or unmotivated or ungrateful if you close the door on one chapter and go in a different direction. I've seen so many people stuck here. The fact is, you look to your left, you look to your right, there's probably people stuck there right now, okay? They know that deep down what they're chasing isn't aligned. It's not even what they want. It's not even what makes them happy. And they wake up and keep chasing it day after day after day, because the fear of disappointing others keeps them grinding away. The fear of what other people are going to think keeps them stuck. I'm trying to tell you, living by a definition of success that isn't yours is the fastest way to not even know yourself, the fastest way to lose yourself. So let's imagine something different if you're open to it. Let's say you took some time today, whether a voice note, whether a journal, and you asked yourself, what matters most to me in this life right now? Maybe you'd realize that success for you is less about climbing anything and it's more about creating. Maybe you'd realize it's less about how busy you are and more about how many moments throughout the day that you can be present. Maybe it's just about the freedom of time, and maybe you could have more of that right now. Maybe there's not actually anything stopping you. You just had to slow down and pay attention to like, wait, what is it that really matters to you? Maybe it's just having a general sense of peace of mind, and you've been moving in ways that rob you of that. Maybe it's just being able to take care of the people you love without burning yourself out in the process. If you step back and slow down and ask yourself the question, you can probably see with some clarity the changes that you could make to redefine success on your own terms and have it be something that feels so much better than however it feels right now. And this is the thing, success does not have one look. There is not one path. Like, There just isn't. And I think I said this earlier, but this whole process that I'm talking about of redefining success for yourself doesn't mean that you're settling, and it doesn't mean that you're losing your ambition either. Like this, I think for the high achievers, this is the big one. Like, you think that if you let go of the old idea of success in terms of how everyone defines it, that somehow that makes you less ambitious. But it doesn't. We really just want to make sure that everything that we're doing is fully aligned. This might mean working fewer hours so that you can have dinner or breakfast with your family. It might mean saying no to things that look shiny on the outside but drain you on the inside, right? It might mean that you actually go chase a dream that makes no sense to absolutely anybody but yourself. The point isn't what's on the list. The point is you're the one who gets to write the list. That's the point. This is the purest form of personal development too. That's the point. A lot of personal development, a lot of self-help, a lot of the stuff that's out here, a lot of it talks about pushing harder, tells you that you need to wake up earlier, tells you that you need to have the perfect routine, that you need to work harder for longer, hustle harder, grind more, put in more reps, put in more effort, have a perfect routine, be more disciplined, be less distracted. But here's what I've noticed. Take it with a grain of salt. Again, I don't have all the answers either. But here's what I've noticed. That kind of self-development is just surface level. And it didn't get me really anywhere for years. Because all it really does is teach you how to perform better inside of the same old box. The next level, the deeper level, it's about totally choosing for yourself. I really just want to challenge you to look in the mirror and say, I get to decide what success looks like in this season of my life. I get to set the standard instead of living up to all these imaginary standards that are everybody else's but mine. Hopefully this video inspires you to say that enough is enough. Again, this is not lowering the bar. This is not lowering the standard. This is ultimately raising it, because it's easier to keep running the race the way that everybody else is. Okay? It takes real courage, though, to step off the track that everyone else is on. And, oh my goodness, there is a bee flying around me. And, forge your own path. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, form your own path. And when you do that, something shifts. You stop living in fear. You stop living with the fear of being left behind. You stop living with the fear of letting people down, of not being enough. Why is it still chasing me? When you're free from all of that, you're free to be the most authentic version of yourself. That's what personal development is at the end of the day. When you actually give yourself permission to define success for yourself, you stop chasing, you stop performing, you stop asking, am I enough? And you start realizing that you already are, and you always have been. Now, I don't want to paint the picture that everything that I'm talking about is like the ideal answer, the ideal life either, okay? Because it's not. You could be doing all of this that I'm talking about already. You could be doing all of this already, and it doesn't mean that your life is going to become perfect. We have to stop looking for perfect. Perfectly imperfect is already the answer. But the difference is when you decide to define success for yourself, you'll be anchored in something that's actually real, something that matters to you. And that's what's going to keep you steady when everything else around you is shifting, because everything else around us is shifting. And I know you feel it. I know you see it. So anyways, that's a whole other conversation. Before I even get to that, let me just leave you with this. If you've been exhausted, if you've been restless, if you've been wondering why the work just doesn't feel like it's paying off, maybe more work and more hustling isn't the answer. You might suspect that already, but here's the whole thing. Ask yourself a different question. Ask yourself a better question. What does success mean to me right here, right now? Then after that, all you really need is the courage to live whatever the answer to that is enough. Because it is. That's not settling. That's not selfish. That's the next level of personal development. Now, if you'd like some clarity, you want some support as you redefine success for yourself, that's what a great coaching space is for. I'll leave a link in the description for that so you can experience what that kind of support feels like. Maybe you realize it's time to stop doing all of this by yourself. Maybe the people around you don't necessarily understand, or maybe they're judgmental or whatever. That's what the coaching space is for. And so you and I, we can work together and we can create some clarity on what that answer is and what's next and how you can get out of your own way to do some of those things differently. My name is Sid Scott. Thanks for slowing down and watching another video with me. I'll see you in the next one.